webinar of the Rural NEET Youth Network webinar program for this summer 2020. This is, as I said, the fifth webinar we're organizing, and with us today are Heidi Paabort and Kerli from the Association of Estonian Open Youth Centers. I'll move on a bit later to talk a bit with them before they go ahead with their presentation. And as usual, before we start the presentation itself, just a few details on the Rural NEET Youth Network, the project that's organizing this webinar program. The Rural NEET Youth Network joins right now a series of countries under COST, European Cooperation in Science and Technology, which is an initiative funded by the European Commission. And this particular project, this particular network, has three main goals. And the first one is to build up future research capacity, focusing on the situation of rural needs across Europe, but with a particular focus on Eastern and Southern countries, which are usually more affected by higher rates of needs in rural areas. A main outcome of this project is to establish an online observatory of rural needs, which can become a platform for future research on this topic and related topics about vulnerable youth in rural areas. And of course, we also want to foster knowledge use by policymakers, practitioners at all levels, whether they're local, regional, national, international levels of intervention. Currently, the action gathers 32 countries, 81 participants from all across Europe. We also have a partner from North Africa, Algeria. And as I said, today our focus is on Estonia and on the example of youth guarantee in that country. Heidi and Kerli are joining us as representatives of the Association of Estonian Open Youth Centers. And before we start, I would like to know a bit more about the intervention of this structure. This Association of Open Centers, is it only an association focused on informal learning? Does it bring together formal and informal learning? What are exactly the goals and the focus, the scope of intervention of the association?
Kerli, do you want to answer?
In Estonia, hello, my name is Kerli, and I just explained shortly that our association is the umbrella organization of youth centers over Estonia. And youth centers in Estonia are the environment where young people can study and try and do different activities as non-formal, and it's like a non-formal education center. And that's why one of youth guarantee program in Estonia is focused to the youth work and youth centers.
So it's nationwide, it's spread across the country.
Yeah, it's national. All over Estonia, our centers are all over Estonia, and later on we in our presentation we explain maybe more detailed about the youth workers work in youth centers and also the youth guarantee program itself.
And just a bit more on that, what is the age range of the young people coming to these centers?
According to Estonian Youth Work Act, the law, the age of youth is 7 to 29. Mostly the young people who every day goes to the youth centers, they are more maybe around 10 to 16. And more specified programs or activities are for youngsters 17 plus, and this youth guarantee is for young people 15 till 29.
So it's a big,
or 26.
It's a big age range in terms of intervention.
Yeah, it depends on the age, and according to the age, there is activities in the youth centers, or youth centers activities depends on which kind of age group come to visit and take part in the activities.
And if you could target one main need or focus or priority right now in Estonia with young people, what would it be? Would it be more related to education, to employment, to well-being? What do you think is becoming or is now the priority in Estonia in terms of intervention with youth?
We may say that participation.
Participation.
Yes, that young people will be more interested to take part in activities and communities, society, and how local authorities and state government, how much they involve them to the decision-making process, and the same to how to involve young people to be more part of the service design, also the service for NEET youngsters.
Okay, so we had a bit of an overview of your intervention as members of your organization. So we can move for your presentation, which is focusing on youth guarantee in Estonia. So the screen is yours.
Thank you. Heidi.
Yes, just one moment. I will put the presentation. Do you see it? Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, just to be sure. So hello from my side as well. I'm Heidi Paabort, and I also work, as Francisco and Kerli already said, Association of Estonian Open Youth Centers. And my role in this organization is to manage one one youth guarantee under measure named PROPUP, and we will later tell you about it. But one thing what I would like to share before we start is also that me and Kerli, we have been in the youth field more than 20 years. So we are not, even if you really care about the research and that kind of things, we are not researchers, let's say, at the moment. We are more practitioners, and that's why we thought that it would be maybe also interesting to see a view of youth field when we talk about the youth guarantee or how we support youngsters. Because youth guarantee is, yes, in every member countries, but the youth work is not always involved. So only 6 or 7 countries decided to involve youth work as well when we talk about the youth guarantee. So that's why I think it's also interesting to know about it. So what we do and why we think it's useful. So now when the new youth guarantee period start very soon, and it's open discussion right now, so hopefully also the youth work will be more involved. So that's also what we would like to do it, and give for sure to European Commission that kind of suggestion from Estonian side. But let's start with our presentation. But Kerli, do you want to say some words before we start? More about yourself?
Yes, I'm Kerli, working in this association as the chairman of the board, and also the colleague of Heidi, working with one activity of which belongs to the Youth Guarantee Program.
And just one map to show where the Estonia is. This is Estonian, but probably you will see the sign where the Estonia. Estonia is a really small country when we compare with a lot of other member countries, and we have like 1.3 million inhabitants. And as Kerli said, that we have a Youth Work Act, and the young is 7 to 26, but we also have kind of services 26 plus, so till 29. So that's why, as we said, that there are a lot of, let's say, the age rate is quite wide. And when we talk about the youth guarantee, then we talk about, at least in Estonia, 15 to 29. But in the youth field, 15 to 26. And also it's maybe interesting to know that when we talk about the youngsters, then 7 to 26, then we have around 20% of youngsters in this age when we think about all the inhabitants. So, and it's mainly, you can see also in this map that it's generally everywhere in Estonia that way. Our presentation is about the youth guarantee and the values, and that's why we have like 6 main values what we would like to share with you. And the one thing is that if you really want to help or support youngsters, you have to know about that. And this topic have to be also the priority, because if it's not priority or you don't know about it, so that's why there is many countries maybe why there is no special services for them, because you don't think it's priority or it's important. And that's why in Estonia to collect different data and information is really important. So what we know about Estonian NEETs is we have more females than males, and it's not the same way in different countries. I mean, and there is a, let's say, special reasons for that. One thing why we have more female than male is that in Estonia is that way that you can stay at home 1.5 years if you have a baby, and you get the salary than before. So 1.5 years you get same salary than before from the state. And because of the changing society, I mean, how to say, a lot of people wants to stay at home after 1.5 years, because in Estonia's other thing is that the working place have to keep your work at least 3 years. And if you go back, you get your old work back. So a lot of people, a lot of parents decide after this 1.5 years to stay home. And because of that, and 90% of them usually a woman who stay home with a baby, 1.5 years a woman. So that's why we have so many NEETs. If we talk about is it a male or female? So, and of course, we have some target group who is home or needs some other reasons, and they are not inactive or they are employed. Because our topic is a rural thing. So if you look this numbers, so if you just take the numbers, of course, more needs in towns. But in Estonia, as I said, it's quite small. So the biggest town, we have 500,000 inhabitants there, but the next town is already where we have only 100,000. So we can say that mainly all Estonia, we can somehow call it rural areas, because the towns are small, and because the towns are small, we do not have all the services and etc. etc. So it's not how to say, equal possibilities in every place. So, and if you look the other numbers here, we can see that if we look how share of NEETs in total, then we see that even if you have, let's say in the Tallinn, most NEETs lives there. So if you look the share of NEETs, it's not a big problem at all in Tallinn. So that's why we are really happy with Kerli, because we really believe that more resources we have to send more rural areas, because they need it more than in the big cities. And now the new youth guarantee also think that this is a good idea to send more resources to the rural areas. So this is one thing what we really believe with Kerli. And also what we know, and I would like to just introduce very shortly one good tools, because a lot of people who probably look this webinar also care about the data and information and the researchers. Just a moment, I will share with you one tool. It's in English, so you can, hopefully you see it. In Estonia, we have that kind of tools like dashboards. So if you're interested about some topic, let's say now this is about the youth, you can come and use it as a visitor or user, and you can see whatever you're interested in. you can see it more closely. And of course, it's English, as you see. And you can also compare, let's say at the moment, I have like a whole country. But if, let's say, I come from Keila and I want to know how many number of young people in municipal council elections, and I want to compare with some other, I can do it very easily. So I can see different information very quickly, and I can use what kind of information I need, and I can download the numbers or visuals, and I can use it very easily. And I think why it's nice tools also to introduce to you is because at least in Estonia, I think that the evidence-based work is in the first steps, I can say, and usually we talk about that kind of things with researchers or decision makers or stakeholders, but we really want that different topics goes more and more to different target groups. And it's really easy to get information, to prioritize some things and use it if you write a project or develop something. And I think also the other researchers that it can be interesting for you just to get to know more about it. And it's not very, used tools. It's not in every country. It's only maybe in some other country, but in Estonia, we really develop it as well. I think it's really useful also to you to later maybe to look it more closely. But just some other maybe remarks more about the NEETs is that Kerli will tell you later about this program where we are working, but it's very, how to say, we see that in our program there are really different kind of backgrounds. It's not only with upper secondary education or with lowest education. We have really kind of overview about everybody. And now after this special time because of this COVID, we see, at least in Estonia, that the employment rates goes higher and higher in every month. And if we do something with the NEETs or we want to provide something to NEETs, we really have to think that we have very, very different kind of background with the youngsters. So I think it's important to know. And maybe even more important is that the last year we had kind of research in Estonia, and 71% students decided after high school not to go to continue their education, or they didn't decide not to go to work at once. They want to discover the world, we can say. And it's also something what changing in Estonian society, and we have to think about it. So the NEETs is not always that it's big problem. Sometimes they choose to be NEETs, if you can say that way as well. And I think it's important to think about it. And every year, 20,000 pupils or students stop their education, but 19 find a new way. So 1,000 stay. So this is the problem. So that's what we have to think, where they are and what to do with them. And the last numbers maybe is that in Estonia we have, let's say, two main nationalities, 70% Estonians and less than 30% other nationalities, and mainly there are Russian background. And I just wanted to see, is there any difference if you look the NEETs? So we even see that here we have the same balance, we can say. So it's not bigger problem in Russian or Estonian that way. So it's quite similar with the percent, how much we have that kind of nationality in Estonia. So that's what we know. Of course, we know more, but I think it's important to understand, if you go on, why we have that kind of choices. And I already introduced to you this dashboard. So I really invite you later to discover this dashboard yourself. So, but now the second values, we can call it. So Kerli.
Yes, to talk about why these young people are NEET. Heidi, you can go on with this slide. So they're based on report that we have done about our program, proper program, since 2015, and also other research about youth, NEET youth in Estonia. We may say that the main reason, biggest reason is living in rural areas, and there can be different problems, which obstacles which comes from this situation. For example, one of them that they are dependent on public transport. So the offers to study or work, it's limited because of the transport or other services, for example, child care or any other. Or living in areas with high unemployment, low education level, family obstacles. Maybe they must take care of the family members, or there are some other conflicts maybe in family, or the family cannot support enough to support these young people education. And based on our program report, we may say that the main risk factor for younger age group is low education and living in rural areas. But if we talk about the older age group, then we can add also the family responsibilities. So these are the main reasons why these young people are in the NEET youth status. Go on. And here is just one example that one researcher says that, for example, if one problem is that young people leave from their families, their parents, very early because of the maybe family conflict or just some friends. Reasons can be different, but if they leave from their home, they cannot, they are unable to cope with work and study or other family responsibilities at this age, and it means that soon they drop out from school, and if they have a low level of education, their choices are limited in rural areas especially, and if they want to find something, they must go to bigger cities. And what happens in the bigger cities, if they have low education, they get a low paid job, and then again they are not able to live independently, and soon they are in the NEET youth status. It's very shortly about the background, and I want to just stop also the report of our program, analyze what shows that we analyze the competencies, where are the biggest lack, where they need more support. And here we see the competencies which are red colors. It's that they need more support, self-motivation, self-esteem, responsibilities, self-discipline, learning to learn, not so much decision making, solving problems or goal settings, cooperation or social skills. So these are competencies that need support by the youth work or other services. This is the background of these NEET youngsters in Estonia. Heidi?
And I just let you know that if somebody is interested about this presentation, then later you can download it through our webpage as well. So I think there are a lot of things what you maybe want to discover later after this presentation. But the third value, maybe what is important in Estonia, when the youth guarantee started, let's say the discussion in Estonia started around 2013, and already then different ministries felt that if you really want to support the youngsters in this, in those kind of problems, we have to be holistic, and that's why we need involve different kind of ministries and the areas. And in Estonia I think it's really good, because at the moment we really see that yeah, somehow we can say that we are in the beginning, but we already do a lot of good things. And it's not same in every country, that so many ministries are somehow involved. Some of them are through the official agreements, but we have many ministries who are really interested, but not yet in official members of those networks. And now when we started discussion about the new period, we're already more involved, because everybody see that they have something to offer to the needs. And the main, of course, in Estonia is the Ministry of Social Affairs and the Ministry of Education and Research. But at the same time, because the target groups are really different ones, there are also Minister of Culture, Minister of Interior, and the Minister of Justice. And now when we see or already read about the suggestion for the new youth guarantee, we think that there will be even more ministries. And I think it's really important that those ministries and also the service providers meet quite often, and through that we get to know also what others do. So we have a quite good overview about the services and what we can provide. And because of this same table, because we are around the same table, we also can somehow do better cooperation, because we think that if we really want to support those youngsters, we have to think that we need holistic view. And because of that, we have so many areas and the ministries around the table, we can call it that way. We also understand that I think it's also a good value that we know that in different target groups need different services, because we can't offer a universal one, because then we are not so successful. Because as Kerli said before, every youngsters showed those, when you saw those numbers, and that every youngsters are different case, different story. So that's why we can't suggest only one. Just to describe a little bit how we work, we have, as I said before, that we have three main ministries who are really support already today through the different kind of services. We have like three main structures in Estonia who provide that kind of support systems for the needs. The first is, and the biggest one, is a youth guarantee, what we are talking today. Then because the Ministry of Education and Research, they have this youth work strategy, and they do very close cooperation with the Ministry of Interior. That's why we have some special programs also under the other ministries, but I will tell you a bit more. And the third one, what I think it's also really interesting and useful for the other countries, is a youth guarantee support system. And under those big and three main structures, there are a lot of activities. And because we know about each other, it's easier a bit to provide the real services for the youngsters, because we have different kind of specific services. But what we have, I think the first thing what I would like to just explain a little bit is the youth guarantee supportive system. So in every municipality in Estonia, we have around 80, it's 79 if I'm right. And every municipality can apply twice per year to the different kind of registers, the list of the needs in their area. But it's voluntary. So not all municipalities do it. But if you want, you really get to know who are the needs in your area or your municipality. And that because of that, it's easier to get to know how many and what are the backgrounds and what to do. And of course, there are many ways later to support those youngsters, but I think it's really important to know at least how many, and then you can continue your work and provide different services. So first they make application, then they get the list, then they try to get contact with them, and then if the youngsters say, yes, I would like to have this support, then they go on, and then the solution can be different. But this is the thing what we really can do twice per year. And this is, as I said, voluntary. And if you want to know that how they make this list, so we have like 9 main registers. And if they are not in those lists, or let's say we have a special register for those students and the pupils, and if you're not there, then maybe you are NEET. So then they take the next register, and after 9 they see who is the list, and then this list goes to the local municipality. So, and that's why we know, let's say in Tallinn last year we had more than 5,000 NEETs, and they also get more information about it, and they know how much is this share of this target group. And you can also see the map and see that not everybody are interested, at least yet, but now they opened also the one foundation that every local municipality who are interested about it, they can also apply their resources to make those services or create those services also to the needs. So I think it's really good opportunity. So the second one I said is under the Ministry of Interior, that we have special program for NEETs if you have committed offense in the past, and now you think that you would like to go on with your life and you need the support. So they have a special service for them. And you can read it later as well about the STEP program and the youth guarantee, why we are here. I think the very important thing in this youth guarantee is that we divided those activities, preventive and supportive. It's very often that we want to support those youngsters, but maybe we have to put more focus to the preventive work. And now even we have a discussion because of this new guarantee period that maybe we have to start this preventive work earlier than 15 or 16, because maybe then it's already late. And the youth field, they have a big value in this field, how to prevent that kind of things. And we have many activities here, but the main things Kerli will tell you at once is preventive work is under the Ministry of Education and Research. We have camps, we have voluntary activities like a community practice, we collect info, we send info, different kind of youth initiative foundations, etc., etc. And also there is good work with the Estonian Employment Inter Fund, because they have some special measures for the youngsters. But now, Kerli, I think it's your turn to talk about the youth field and the youth centers.
Yes, to talk about my favorite topic. So I want to take some minutes to explain a bit the youth work, to give a better understanding where we work, in what conditions. So Ministry of Education and Research is the main ministry for the youth work, as Heidi mentioned, and talking about that NEET services or services for NEET youngsters, then we have partnership with ministry and ministry institutions, and they have given this possibility for youth work unions to develop. And as our organizations, we deliver or delegate this service to the youth centers, which act locally, and they do it in the local level, this service for NEET youngsters. And I have to mention that youth work in Estonia, it's the responsibility of local authorities. That's why I think that this way how we work is the best, that it goes directly to these places where young people lives. And we're in Estonia, not all countries they have a Youth Work Act, but we have, and it makes more clear what is the field where we are working. And in this document there is written the age of the young people, the meaning of the youth work. It's the creation of conditions for young people that they can develop outside their families, formal education and work. And also in this Youth Work Act, there is written also the principles of this work. And it's also important working with NEET youngsters. So it means that we involve them to the decision process, it's youth to youth learning process, equal working conditions, and everything is based on the young person needs and interests. But I want to also explain a bit different laws that in Estonia we have around the young person. If we talk about local municipality social department, then there is Social Welfare Act and Child Protection Act, which has impact to the work with young people. And as Heidi already mentioned, the list of the conditions which is written, which kind of youngsters will get help according to this law. And then we have unemployment insurance fund where which work also with young people, but also according to this their Labor Market Services and Benefits Act, there are some restrictions with which kind of young people they can work. And also these young people to whom these services are done, they must fill some conditions. And then educational institutions also, the work is going on under the Education Act, and also there are restrictions that the application to attend school is until the age of 17, and if you are older, then the school cannot do anything. And comparing with this other act, we can compare, take the Youth Work Act, where there are just only one condition, limit or restriction. It's so that you must be aged 7 to 29. So it gives possibility to work all different young people. So we are very happy that we have this kind of law that support our youth work and work also with NEET youngsters in a very different way. And this youth work, we may say that we are happy that the Estonian government have found the youth work as important resource for young people, especially about for this non-formal education or self-directed learning development through the youth work activities. And as it found that non-cognitive skills predict educational and labor market outcomes, health and crime, and at least half of persons' non-cognitive skills come from the home and learning environment, and therefore it be changed through this experience that they can get through the youth work. And if we think about this slide that I talked about some minutes ago, about these competencies, and we think about these non-cognitive skills and youth work possibilities to develop them, then we see that youth work and these activities has great potential to develop all these social skills, self-efficiency, self-control, self-directed learning, or other skills which help young people to go on their life or plan their life. And the youth work is in Estonia, it's full of different learning opportunities, and there are no limits, no time, no conditions, and it makes possible to support young people even after they have got some services, which is especially for NEET youth, and they get a job or work, they go to school, but still the youth work can support their later also. And what our specialists and also youth have mentioned, that the potential of youth work is that there is possible that NEET youngsters study, learn, or take part of activities together with other young people. It doesn't mean that NEET youngsters are some kind of special group and they have to feel somehow labeled, but they very natural way they work and study together with other youngsters in the youth center or youth work activities. And here is just one model example how one case management could be if the youth center or youth activities take responsibility of this self-directed learning support or different smaller educational activities. So if the main case manager comes from school, unemployment office, or social department, they take contact with youth center or youth institutions if the young people need different kind of smaller studying activities. And together with the youth workers, they develop the strategy how the young people can go on with his or her plan, so that he's motivated to take part. And then we can use in our work youth center activities, or if needed, then we can involve also to these strategy activities which are offered by school or unemployment office. And also if there are some social problems that should be solved, then we can take contact with local authority social department. But in Estonia, we may say that social department itself hasn't any trainings or this kind of programs for young people. Now, mostly they give support and solve social problems, and which is also very important. And later on, it's assessment process to analyze the result. It's just one model to explain how it could be if we use the youth work in partnership with others. And here you see, here are the youth centers around Estonia. There are, in Estonia, we have 288 youth centers. These blue ones shows the number, how many youth centers are in this concrete county. And this green one, how many of them are members of our organization. So you see that our youth centers are all over the Estonia, and the same our members of our organization. And if we talk about the activities, what does it mean that the youth center, what kind of activities there are? So here is just one list of the activities that youth centers provide. And all these activities can be at the same, the preventive work and also the supportive work, especially if we think that different young people work together. So there is youth information activities, this is our proper program, mobile youth work, voluntary activities, youth initiative, different participation, youth council activities, camps, working camps, hobby groups, training courses, and so on. But these are the main ones which we can use also for NEET youngsters support. And it's only not on the bigger cities, it's also the rural areas. And sometimes in Estonia, it's even said that youth centers in rural areas has better position in community because they offer so many services for young people. In bigger cities, sometimes they are not so visible. And here is our proper program. The red areas are this region where our association is working and offering this NEET youngsters program, mostly the countryside. And this blue one is Tallinn, very special program also for NEET youngsters under the youth guarantee. And all these gray areas, they are also the rural areas, which also need some support for NEET youngsters, but it's not covered because mostly it's just a question of the resources because of the money. And here is just overview our service. It's divided into four phases. So first part is to find out where are the youngsters, this outreach work, and if we get contact with young people, then we build up the trust relationship and using different tools to understand what is the situation and motivation of this young person. And then on the third phase, we go on with different special activities, what youth work has, or we can do it also in partnership with other institutions. And the fourth phase is this exit, where young people go to study or work. And this last slide shows that how intensive is the partnership with other institutions. So here is you see the percent of how many contacts or how intensive is the partnership. Mostly that it's the unemployment insurance fund, the vocational training school or educational consultancy or local municipalities. These are the main partners to develop the service or of the offer the different services for the NEET youngsters. And here is just one slide about this COVID-19, what happened with our service. So this red or this orange one, you see that these are the part of our service which stayed, which were worked during the COVID period, but these white ones were stopped. But it wasn't so intensive. So it's something that we have to think about if new wave is coming, how to be better prepared and activate all parts again, our service, not only just some parts.
Thank you, Kerli.
Thank you.
And now the last part, or the sixth values, what we thought to say is that we think that in Estonia, we aware that we need kind of systemic approach. So as in the beginning, I told you about the statistic and the numbers. We have one more good tools, we can say that way. In our prop-up program, we have that kind of thing like logbook. So what we do with this logbook is that we describe all those cases through this logbook. So because of that, we just don't know about the backgrounds, but also how we supported, who we involved, or how long it was, so kind of dynamic. So, and because of that, we know more and we know how to develop all the time our service. So if you put together what I introduced to you, this youth guarantee supportive system, that we know who we have or how many youngsters we have in the NEET situation. Then we put this logbook information. We know if we do that, what will be results, or if we involve that, or do we need 4 or 6 months? So we can also describe the services. So we already have the information, how many needs. So we also have kind of information how to support them. And because of that, we can work more evidence-based, we can say. And I think it's really good tools in Estonia, because at the moment we have already more than 8,500 cases. And as I said in the beginning, that last year we had around 20,000 needs. So it's quite good overview of what's going on in Estonia and what to do. And because of that, me and Kerli, we also create kind of supportive material for the local municipalities and also to the state, and they involve us because they know that we have a lot of information, and that's why we are very useful for state. So that kind of evidence-based work is really valued, I hope. So this is one thing. And the last thing maybe what we want to introduce to you is that very often it's so that we create a service, and later we try to validate it, how well it worked. So, and then we see that maybe we need something to develop. But it's not so that we can develop only the service. We also have to think about the environment around the service. And that's why we created that kind of tools to the local municipalities. And we also, piloted it through the 20 different kind of municipalities, where they try to look what to do extra, not only service, but what else is important in this environment if you really want those kind of services are successful and we really can support the youngsters. So we found out, of course, this is just one way. There can be more and more the keywords, but if you put it in the Estonian context, so we found that it's 6 main things. What else we have to think if you talk about the service? So the first thing is the networking and cooperation. Even if you have a very good service, but there is no let's say, official agreements, or there is no strategical documents where this topic is a priority, or there is no kind of steering groups who lead this process, there will be a lot of problems because everybody just tried to provide their service, but they don't have a kind of common understandings about it. So that's why we really talk about with the municipalities about it, that how to do it. And if you are not in the strategic documents, then you don't have resources, so you don't have money. So sometimes it's so that there is a very good service, and if you validate the service, we see it's not successful, but it's not because the service is bad, but because the environment was not supportive or the other areas didn't know about it. So the second thing what we talk about it with the municipality was the reputation and the media. Very often, at least in Estonia, we see that that the reputation of youth is not good. Or if the media writes articles about the youngsters, they always write it negative way, etc., etc. So it's also important, and also about the youth field, we have to give youth work reputation, very good reputation, we can say, because other way, no youngsters or the parents who want to involve with our program or with our service. So everything is somehow connected and involved. And the third thing is the availability of the service to the young people. If the youngsters don't understand the service, or we don't use this, the right channels, let's say, if you talk about virtual work. So if we just use Facebook and they are not there, even if the information is right, we never catch them, because we have to know where they are, what they need, what they use, and we have to think about it. And one very important thing what Kerli said before is the mobile youth work, what we very much use. It's not only outreach work in the streets, it's also outreach work in the virtual world. So, and because of that, we have to know where are the youngsters. And it's always so that we go there where are the youngsters and not opposite way. So, and that's why we also talk about the municipalities, that let's say the park is open area where the, let's say the specialists can meet with the youngsters. But if this park is not comfortable, the youngsters never comes, or opposite way. Sometimes you have to keep the park a bit more dark, because that's why the youngsters want to meet you there. So you really have to know what the youngsters needs and use the right channels and the right youth information, and you always have to know where they are. So it's always, you have to think also about the availability of the service to the young people. So Kerli?
Yes, also we cannot do this service without specialists. So it's not so that everyone from the street may come in and start to work with NEET youngsters target group. And also the youth work as the special field. Also it needs special education and experience to work with young people to be successful in this work. And that's why it's important to educate and make a training courses for NEET youngsters, specialists, and also give possibility to take part on the supervision or co-vision process. For example, our organization is doing now at least 4 times per year, where the meetings where young youth specialists can come together and discuss about different cases and support each other. And now it's supported by the Youth Guarantee Program, but if someday something changed, we don't know how to solve it, but it must be that the same kind of specialists can discuss about the cases together and support each other. And for youth specialists, youth workers, it's important also the working environment, that all the social quarantine must be covered, and also working place and equipment. During the COVID-19, sometimes we met the problem that maybe there wasn't enough internet connection or computers to work out of the office. But it must be organized for the specialists, and also working methods. So we need more and more new methods, and because maybe even the target group is now more analyzed and more understood, that even the NEET youngsters named, there are also very different NEET youngsters, different groups, and maybe every group needs some special supportive program, and which is a bit different than others. And also we have talked about it, that if in this youth guarantee program the time for help young person is 4 or 6 months maximum, then it's not maybe enough time to counseling and coaching and make motivative interviewing, but maybe it's more effective and more quick to use different assessment methods in the beginning of this of the service. So we are very open if someone knows some new methods or tools to work with young NEET youngsters, and or someone develops something interesting to just share with us, and we are waiting all this kind of information to bring new working methods to this to our work also.
And as you can see, it's very colorful slide, because we also talk about it, that who have to be responsible for some factors. And this is something what is really important also to send to the state, and we already have done it. That, as I said before, that we really want to work evidence-based. So that's why we do that kind of tools, to understand what is important and what to do, and now how to go on together with the state and the municipalities. And that's why this work is also very important for us to develop the service, because if the, let's say, youth guarantee say that we have to save the youngsters, let's say in 4 months, so then all the service dynamic and case management have to change, because it's not possible anymore like we had before. So everything is connected, and that's why just the last ideas or the thoughts that what we suggest to the other states or the other countries, if they want to create something new, or they want to provide that kind of services, that everything is starting from the common understanding, even how we influence, or what is the result, or what is the problem, what we try to solve, or do we work cross-sectorial or no? Do we have some common guidelines or no? Because if there is no common understandings between the areas, or the, let's say, in the holistic view, then we can't be successful, because we all just provide our service, but I'm not sure that we really then can help the youngsters, because if you don't know about each other so well, so then it's not possible to do the co-creation. And as we said before, that we will put our presentation this webpage. If somebody is interested, you can download it. It's really short, so you can write it down. And if somebody is interested to read what they plan to do in a new youth guarantee, because you are also involved with this kind of things, so there is suggestions, and at the moment it's open discussion. You can read about it in your own language, because it's already translated there, so you're welcome also to read it. And if you want to know more about our programs or reports, or our best practices, or some other information what we talked today, you are welcome to read it. It's in English, so you can continue to learn about Estonia. And if you have any question, of course, we are ready to answer. if you know the answer, let's say. Anyway, thank you for your listening, and we really hope that you got some good idea, or at least some thoughts how to go on, or what to know more.
Thank you from my side too, and I want to just add that this Council, European Commission, this recommendation document, it's quite a lot focused to the rural area youngsters. That made me very happy, or us very happy to read, and that's very good. So,
well, thank you to you both, Kerli and Heidi, for your presentation. May I just add some comments and questions before we go on for more questions, certainly. I have a couple of questions. One is that it is really very interesting how you in Estonia are focusing on, I would say, some priorities which are not usually under the radar, as at least as for my knowledge, in terms of intervention with NEETs. And mostly I'm talking about prevention, which is not quite the approach of most of the countries regarding the NEET status. Usually the approach is to work on the problem and not to prevent it. So that's something that I really, personally, I would like to learn more about the Estonian approach on that matter. So definitely I'm going to look at some of your documents. And the other issue is the focus on the psychosocial aspects, characteristics of these youths, because most of the research that is made and most of the intervention is focused on what we can say hard variables: employment, education, poverty and social exclusion, which of course are main drivers, as we know, of becoming a NEET. But then I was very pleased to see your survey and how much detail you have on the characteristics of these youths in terms of their psychosocial profile. So that's something that I'm going to also explore a bit more. As a psychologist, of course, this is interesting for me. And I do believe that there's a very important spectrum of intervention with these youths that has to do with this kind of variables. And then I have a couple of questions. And the first one is connected with this focus on soft skills and psychosocial characteristics. You do seem to give a great deal of importance to these variables in Estonia. And my question, you explored it a bit in your presentation, but I would like to understand how exactly these needs of these youths are being included in, for instance, the interventions by youth centers. That's one question. Giving one or two examples of the kind of programs that focus on these soft skills, psychosocial skills. My second question has to do with IT. You were very, how to say it? Many times you focus on the idea that to work and especially to reach out these youths, you need to use non-traditional approaches. You cannot only rely on personal social interaction. You should look for ways and tools that enable to reach out to these youths. So I would like also to know exactly how are, for instance, youth centers and other organizations in Estonia tracking and reaching out to youths through social media and through IT. And if you can even share one or two examples of tools that you are using. Are you using specific applications, develop these kind of tools? What can you add on those two topics? Thank you.
Okay, I take this first question. It was about social skills. we have several cases when young youth workers have been in good contact or have built up good contact with these NEET youngsters and understood what are the maybe interest of this youngster. Where is his or her motivation point? A bit smaller inner motivation point, and build up some activities for him or her. It depends how ready is this young person. Maybe he can join with some hobby group in the youth center, or maybe he or she is ready to organize some event even, or take some responsibility of a bigger event. And the youth center idea is to create very supportive and safe environment to young people to test, to try, even fail, but if to fail, then go on. And all these small steps help to develop all these social skills and also to all these soft skills and time planning, be more self-confident to understand that I am someone or I'm ready to develop. And when we have, sometimes we collect some cases which our youth workers share with us, and here we see very interesting development way how they have learned during this period different skills which are important to go on and be more active in social life and not afraid or
So Kerli, as I understood, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just to see if I understood well, your approach is a very person-centered approach. You look at each youth and base your intervention on a motivational approach, providing experiences to each of these youths. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. The most important is that build the inner motivation and not to I don't know, give support outside and give money or offer something, of course free food, but it's not the main activity. It's just a bonus if you have some activities where you get free lunch, but it's not important. So one by one and very personal way.
And if I can add to Kerli, then I remember when we started this program 2015, it's almost 5 years ago, then we very often felt that, let's say, if you find the youngsters and you start to work with them, so then the state hoped that we give these youngsters and, let's say, go to behind the employment office door and just give this youngster to them and then we go away. But then of course, we knew already then, and what we said is that it's not only about to go to work or to education. It's always something else. So if you don't try to solve this problem before, then we see that after 1 month, maybe these youngsters again needs or on the streets. So we have to work with these things, what Kerli said, and in the youth field, we have a lot of things to provide and support. So that's why we also would like to have that the official result is not only that the youngsters went to the education or to the work or labor market, it's also that this youngster is now part of the youth field or some other system, because we see that some youngsters, they need more than just 4 or 6 months. And if you don't solve this problem, then we are in the beginning very soon. But the other question was about the virtual work. In Estonia, we are very, I can say we love virtual world. And in Estonia, we also have that kind of area, how we call it smart youth work. So we know that the youngsters are in virtual world, so we can do nothing. So, but what we can do, we can use it in a good way. So that's why we have if you talk about the mobile youth work, as I said before, it's on the street, but also in the virtual world. So, but what we noticed also now, these 3 months, that yes, we can create new channels, but but sometimes it doesn't work because youngsters, they create their own. So we have to go where the youngsters. So if the youngsters are in Instagram or I don't know, TikTok or some other channels, we have to go there because this is their area, their land, their world, and we are kind of visitors. So if you go there, we have to understand it. So it's not so much how much we create new channels, but what and how to spread this information and the messages. That's the question. So the specialist said after 3 months, but use less channels, but information have to be more quality, because youngsters, let's say, we go their world, not opposite way. So that's why this smart youth work is for us very important. And we already have some years when also the state tried to develop this area. And because of this time, the one thing what we noticed, and we really hope that maybe we can go on and develop it somehow with between the different ministries and the areas, is because really they hope that we save them for 4 months. And if you think how much we have to do during these 4 months, and the main thing, what is the biggest challenge in Estonia, probably the same in other countries, is the personal information. If the youngsters are not agree, then you can give this information to some other institution, and that's why very often the service stop. But if we can, create somehow the common platform where the youngsters come as a user themselves, and because he or she is a user, she is there, and all the other specialists from the social affair area or the youth field area come to their world, and then you don't need to send the information because the youngster is already there. So maybe to create something like this is also our kind of dream with the Kerli, and we think right now how to really, do it so that the youngsters want to do it and it's comfortable for them. But anyway, we see that this is a very important keyword, that we always have to go there where the youngsters and not opposite way, because as you said yourself, Francisca, every case is different. And that's why we can't provide universal things. We always have to do what the youngsters need. And if the youngsters like to be in the social media and the virtual world, so then we have to accept it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think
I may add that if we have we have written some articles in newspaper, the paper newspaper, then or we have some other advertisement in the newspapers, then we get a lot call from grandparents or families, family other members. It's not the place where we get contact with young people, but with families.
Okay, thank you. More questions, comments?
Is there any questions somewhere?
Gabriela, I think she wants to add.
Yes. Hello, I'm Gabriela from Romania. I know Estonian population migrate to Finland, if I understand correctly.
There are a lot of countries where the youngsters wants to go, yes. And one is Finland, for sure.
Yes, and in this condition, the Estonian population are other expectation in relation with, I don't know, work condition, education, salary, lifestyle, especially young people.
Sorry, is there any question or I don't.
Yes.
I mean,
I think the question of Gabriela has to do with the main motives for migration for these youths.
Okay, why they want to I think most of youngsters, they go, let's say if you talk about Finland, of course they want to go there because there are better salary. And they say that in Finland they are easier to start. So let's say it's easier to get better salary, and because that it's easier to get the loan from bank and start your own life, you know, to rent a flat or to buy a flat. And but this is just one thing. But there are more countries where the youngsters wants to go, like Australia and some other countries. But I think in Finland there are not only youngsters, but I mean all inhabitants who have been or want to move to Finland is around 100,000 or something like this. But there are a lot of youngsters who work there, but their families lives still in Estonia, or just one person from family works there, and in every weekend they come back. So that is why we have sometimes problems, because the children are alone a lot, or the young people are home alone, and that's why there will be NEETs in one day, because it's also one reason. But
Okay.
yeah, maybe Kerli wants to add something for this.
No, but maybe even I don't know the statistics, but I have more heard that even more people coming back already, because the living standard in Estonia is quite okay already now. So and yes, but yeah, yes, young people, they are looking more places in Australia. So Finland is maybe this. I have met a lot of young people who have said that they went to Finland to get their first money to start their life, but they come back and continue their studies in Estonia after this some years working life in Finland. I know many of these kind of cases, but I don't know statistics so correctly.
Yeah, but we can see that more and more people come back. That's for sure, because yeah, in Estonia the life standard is already quite
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question. I showed the map, country map, Estonian, and I think you have Iceland, 2 community or 2 country. I don't know.
Island.
Island?
Island.
Yes, you have.
Yes,
Yeah, we have island. Yes.
And yes, no. 2.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, there are difference between this community and another community in a country.
Mm-hmm. No, we haven't any differences, and even not any special programs, state programs for them. We have special state policy to support working life, and entrepreneurship. It's to this eastern part and the southeast part. But islands we haven't. But talking about NEET youngsters, we had also the program, this Hiiumaa, this smaller gray area. But they said after 2 years of this program that we haven't enough NEET youngsters to keep special program. We solve their program through the regular youth work. But in Saaremaa, the bigger but red island, we have our program also there. But they are very good in their work. But mainly for this region, that the problem is that young people migrate to the from the island to the how to say other Estonian, or mostly in the Tallinn. Maybe our problem is that young people moving to Tallinn from countryside.
Yeah, that was the statistic, I think, kind of news some days ago, that only Tallinn is the place where it will be more and more people, and the other counties and the places there will be less and less. So, but I saw it's, I mean, generally in Europe, there are some places where people want to go, and in Estonia, it's very often youngsters want to go to Tallinn because they hope that they get a better salary or they find some job. But let's see how this 3 months now influence this. Do they want to come back or they stay there? So I think in the autumn we will really see the influence of this time. But that's why I said before that we have this youth guarantee supportive system where municipalities now can apply and see the number and the background of the needs, and they can also apply through the European Social Foundation some money to create the services or continue their services. So we really hope that because of that, every place can, you know, make more and more specific services for the youngsters, and we really hope that this will be so, because it's voluntary, and because of this because this is voluntary, we still have that kind of gray areas probably after 1 year. So the youngsters, it's not so easy if you live in a wrong municipality. So that's why sometimes they move or have to move. But we try our best with Kerli that in every place in Estonia has at least some services, and that's why we making those supportive material also for the municipalities. And of course, we hope that they want to use in good way the youth field as well.
Thank you. Last question. If I understand correctly, Ministry of Interior is police?
Yeah, there are.
Yes.
It's between Ministry of Interior and Police and Ministry of Justice. They both work with the same target group, but this service, yes, is under the Ministry of Interior, and the police is under the Ministry of.
Because it's very interesting. He has the role of support, not the control.
Yeah, I think this is very good value. I mean, or some keywords in Estonia that we already, when this youth guarantee started in the beginning, we really believe this preventive work thing, and as we understood that now also the state think about it, how to do it more and more, because we see that there are more influence than just to solve those problems. So. And this is the, how to say, we see that in the youth field there are a lot of potential to do it, because we already, 20, let's say the first youth center was created 20 years ago. So we already have a lot of practice and knowledge and know-how. So also the other countries can probably study a lot from Estonian youth centers.
Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know if there's any final question or comment. Also on your side, Kerli, and I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add before we finish.
I think we have finished as well.
Okay. Okay.
I really invite you to download this presentation and read a bit more about those materials, what we added, and also these tools where you can see different data about Estonian youth and some other, because a lot of information also about other areas and the municipalities. So, and maybe this is something you want to create in your country, and this can be good practice or example for you.
Yes, and as a last comment, I think another original issue or aspect of the youth guarantee in Estonia is the involvement of municipalities, because not all countries develop youth guarantee at that level. Most of the times, for instance, in Portugal, most of these policies are developed by the central state in some connection with the regional organizations, but in fact, the involvement of, for instance, municipalities is not kind of a target or priority. So that's something else that I would like to add. There's kind of several layers of intervention that your your experience shows. So that's something original and useful also for sharing. And thank you for sharing the websites. I'm sure we'll take a look, and all the materials you have will be certainly useful. And thank you again for your presentation. I would just like to finish before finishing to give you some more information on the next webinars. So after the webinar from today by Heidi and Kerli, on Thursday we'll have a new webinar held by Antonella Roca from the University of Naples. And in this case, she is going to present a study on some of the micro and macro determinants of the NEET status across Europe before and after the economic crisis. So this is Thursday. Afterwards, on the 20th, on next Monday, Miroslava Bavorova from the Czech Republic will develop a webinar on the perceptions of prestige associated to agricultural occupations among youths, which is quite central for rurality. And finally, on the 31st, to finish up July, Ilkay Unai is going to bring us some thoughts on becoming a young farmer in the digital age. And she is focusing specifically on case studies from European islands, from Cyprus, Greece, and Portugal. And she's bringing some insights on the comparison between these peripheric areas of Europe. And I think we're about to finish. Again, Kerli and Heidi, thank you very much for sharing your experiences on the Youth Guarantee. And I hope to see you all very soon on Thursday on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.